Okay, so we're going to change the cartridge in Callie's T-Slim. So the first thing that we're going to do is make sure we have the pump disconnected from her. We've got our insulin, a new cartridge, alcohol swab, the syringe, the key to remove the cartridge, and some new tubing. This one I've already removed the site from, so I left the tubing in the package, so we'll use that today. So after you unlock, we're going to go down to your options, hit options, load, change cartridge. So once it's going to run you through a bunch of safety measures about disconnecting, stopping the insulin. You just hit all the way through. Then you're going to take your key and in that divot pop off the cartridge. You're going to take your new cartridge, make sure it lines up with the two little grooves, pop it all the way on. Take your syringe, and it's the empty syringe. Make sure there's no air out of it, like no air in it. Then you're going to stick it in this little white port at the end. And then you're going to suck up the air that's inside. And then just remove it. And that's going to help get out the air that could be still in the bag and make sure there's no bubbles left inside that. So the next thing we want to do is actually fill it with the insulin. So we are going to wipe off the top with alcohol. While we're doing, it's gonna go through and prepare for the new cartridge. So while we're doing that, we're gonna go ahead and load up our insulin. Make sure that you remember to suck up the air and push the air into the vial so it doesn't create a vacuum. We usually load around 300 or so 100 units or so in her pump at a time, and that'll get us through about 4 or 5 days. So it's usually the one, and after the one you go down to like around the second or third tick mark. It kind of depends on what you're going to be doing and eating. If you're going to be eating a lot of junk, we get more. Okay, so to get the air bubbles out, hit it with a pin because they're going to really trap up in that little orange part where the needle is. Okay, so once you have all the air bubbles out, let's see. Yep, the screen says to fill. So we're going to go back to that little white port. Whoop, and put the needle straight in the middle and then slowly inject the insulin. Okay. Once that's done, you press unlock, hit next, cartridge is changed. So now what we want to do is we want to fill the tubing. So I'm going to hit next, and then it's going to bring you up to if you want to start your fill. So I always hit start, leave it up propped up on its sides.
Margie.
And then I start the fill without connecting the tubing, so that it's pushing out all the air that's in this little part of the tube, and it's going to help get a lot of the air bubbles out of the lure lock. So I only attach the tubing once I see like the bubble of the insulin coming out of the very top, and then I'm going to screw it on and lock it down as tight as I can. Smudge. Okay, it's starting to come out the end here. We're about like 6 units into it. And really screw that on as tight as you can because you don't want it to come loose and get air bubbles in the line when it's attached to her. So make sure that you keep the pump up on its edge. and then we're just going to wait for it to fill up the tubing. It'll usually be around 20 to 21 or so before you start seeing insulin come out of the tip of the needle here. Make sure that you see at least 3 drops come out, and then double check down the line that there's not a big air bubble trapped. Once or twice, like I've been seeing insulin out of the end, but there'll be like a big air bubble right here. So you'll want to make sure that before you hit OK and actually attach it, that there's not a big air bubble like further down the line. But if you pull the air out of the excess air out of the cartridge before you actually insert the insulin, that really cuts down on seeing any air bubbles at all. Let's see where we are. Okay. We're right around here.
I got it. I said I got it. I said you did.
Okay, so we're almost to the end.
I'm filming the video.
Okay. So the first bubble has come out.
Because filming the video.
All right, so once you are sure that you don't have any bubbles in it, you're going to hit stop on the screen. It's going to make sure that you are seeing, insulin at the tip, and hit done. Now, if you are not changing the site, do not hit fill the cannula because you don't need to. It's only if you inserted a new site. If you're not going to put the site on at the same time and you're just going to change just the cartridge like today, you just hit done. It's going to remind you to check your BG. At this point, you're going to resume your insulin and then put the case on. And then you're done.